This is a 1934 Bluebird 15A portable typewriter. The Bluebird is the export model of the Torpedo 15A, which was made around the same time. It just happens to be a different name. Everything else is exactly the same. The earlier torpedoes are not as common as the later torpedoes from the 50s. And the Bluebird model in its own is even more rare. So it's nice to see an example. This machine is not owned by me. It is owned by a lady who owns an antique store and who asked if I could fix it up for her. It came in a rather deplorable state when it arrived at my bench. It took quite a few hours to get it where it is. I've had it for 2 weeks in total just because I have to work around a very busy schedule. I do, however, have to conclude that the outcome is surprisingly good. The paint isn't in the greatest shape. As you can see on top, there is a few chips. However, it did buff up really nicely. It still has the original spools. The paper table, it does have some wear marks on it. That's just the aging of the paint. It is more shiny in person than the camera depicts. These Torpedo / Bluebird typewriters, they are interesting machines in that they, from a mechanic's point of view, are a pain in the ass to work with. Mainly for the reason that the design does not allow easy access to the more complicated components, such as the escapement. However, from a user point of view, I would have to say that I do really like using this typewriter. The overall design reminds me a little bit of a combination between Royal and Remington. I would have to conclude that they definitely looked at the earlier versions of those when they designed this machine. I'm unsure as to when this machine was brought into production and when it ended, mainly because the typewriter database is not very specific. As far as I could see, I'm not too sure if the later versions of these were also branded the 15A. However, this machine is other than just being an odd looking bird, excuse the pun, a fairly basic machine, standard functions. It has a color selector over here. It has ribbon direction switches on both sides. They do the same thing and they're connected. Over here is the shift lock, which is an unusual place, but that's the way it works. Now, for being an earlier machine, a portable, I was surprised to see it is a basket shift. It does have the earlier hinged mechanism, so no ball bearings yet, as far as I can tell. Here's the backspace key, and it has the normal standard keyboard layout for English-Dutch. It does have the extra keys, which you have the half key, and you have the 5/8 key, and the 7/8, and the 1/8 and 3/8, and then the 1/4 and 3/4 key. So it had its specific purpose for sure. I've installed a brand new ribbon. I will do a type sample in a short bit. Over here we have a paper support bar which folds forward instead of up. The support rollers had completely disintegrated, so I went at it with the heat shrink tubing, which I got from Lordco Auto Parts. The support or the feed roller underneath the platen had completely flattened, so I chiseled off the remaining rubber and also did the same thing, and that works very well. Another issue this machine had when it came to me was that the line space lever spring, which you see over here, and I'm sorry the quality isn't the greatest, had snapped. It was one of those pivot springs, I think is the word I'm looking for. It's the one that looks a bit like a V shape with a circle in the center. So I came up with a bit of a structure that works very well and does the job as it should, and it even looks like it was made to be. So in any case, it might not be original, but it's very functional. Here we have what is an odd place for one, but this is the margin release. The reason it raises the paper table is that the paper table is mounted directly onto the margins. The margin bar raises, and therefore so does the paper table. Yeah, so it has its standard functions, just odd placement, such as the shift lock key and the margin release. But besides that, yeah, it's a very beautiful typewriter, as you can see. That's the carriage lock over here. One-sided platen knob. So, yeah. And having a look underneath the machine, you will understand why I meant that this is so difficult to work with. This is not a removable plate. This is part of the structure that you're looking at. And underneath here is not even the escapement. This is the space mechanism, as well as the spring. The bell is over here, and I think we'll find this to be the line space, or the key lock for the end of the margin lock, end of the sentence. The escapement is actually underneath that plate you see behind the spacebar mechanism. You would think that you would have easy access from the sides if you were to keep the carriage on. However, as you can tell, that is not the case. Another thing is that these machines, apparently, I counted 8 ball bearings in the carriage. I'm sure there could be more. There's 2 star wheels, all of which will start flying if I start removing components of the carriage further than the platen, the side assemblies. If I start taking the carriage off, that's just going to be an irreversible process. So I did as best as I could in cleaning the escapement. It did require some work when it first came to me. However, as you can probably tell, it works absolutely beautiful right now. And the feet are in reasonable condition. They're not the greatest, but they're there. So if we can set the camera up somehow. I'm afraid I am in a tight space here, but I will do my best. Okay, I think I have propped the camera in such a way that you can see what I'm doing. And as you can already tell, I already did a bit of typing. Now you'll find that this machine has a surprisingly heavy touch that it requires in order to operate fully. It definitely takes some getting used to. As you can tell, the heat shrink tubing works flawlessly. The only downside to what I did with the support rollers is that they're a little bit too fat, so if the keys pass underneath them, they do have a tendency to stick a little bit. I'm using double sheeted paper, as I did with all my machines these days, and I just keep the support rollers to the side a little bit in order for them to work. Okay, let's get to it. Remove my matches. There we go. As you can tell, I'm typing rather slow for my doing. The main reason for that is that the feel of this machine is quite heavy. I thought that was adjustable, but by the looks of it, it's not. It's just literally how far the keys have to travel when you press each one of them. And it is a rather big mechanism for such a small typewriter. I mean, the way the keys are slanted and how far the push buttons have to travel in order for you to be able to strike the page. So, yeah. Anyway, there it is, the 1934 Torpedo 15A/Bluebird 15A. A rather unusual bird. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please stick around for the next one. Thank you for watching.